Chapter 4, French Indochina. Welcome to Chapter 4 of Vietnam, A Journey Through History and Culture by ChatGPT and Video Geek Sparrow. In this chapter, we will delve into the intricate and complex period of French Indochina, a chapter in Vietnam's history that shaped its destiny in profound ways. French Indochina refers to the period when Vietnam, along with Laos and Cambodia, came under French colonial rule. It was a time of immense transformation, marked by the collision of Eastern traditions and Western influences, as well as the relentless pursuit of economic and political interests by the French. The French presence in Vietnam dates back to the 17th century when French missionaries arrived on Vietnamese shores, spreading Christianity and establishing religious institutions. However, it was during the 19th century that France sought to extend its control over Vietnam, driven by its ambitions for colonial expansion and economic dominance in Southeast Asia. In the mid-19th century, the French began to exert their influence more forcefully. They gradually gained control over strategic areas, established trading posts, and signed a series of unequal treaties with the Vietnamese rulers. These treaties granted the French significant advantages, including extraterritorial rights and control over Vietnam's finances. The French vision of Indochina as a lucrative colonial possession became clearer with the formation of the Union of French Indochina in 1887. Vietnam, along with Laos and Cambodia, was officially placed under French colonial administration. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in Vietnam's history, one that would be defined by exploitation, cultural assimilation, and resistance. Under French rule, Indochina underwent significant economic changes. The French aimed to transform the region into a profitable colony, extracting valuable resources and exploiting the labor of the local population. Large-scale plantations for rubber, coffee, and tea were established, primarily benefiting French colonists and wealthy Vietnamese elites who collaborated with the French. Infrastructure projects, such as the construction of railways, bridges, and roads, were also initiated, albeit primarily to facilitate resource extraction and enhance the French colonial administration's control. The introduction of modern transportation and communication systems had a profound impact on the region's development and connectivity. However, it is crucial to recognize that French Indochina was not solely a story of economic exploitation. The French also made efforts to modernize Indochina through the implementation of Western-style education and healthcare systems. Schools, hospitals, and universities were established, creating opportunities for some Vietnamese to gain education and professional training. Nevertheless, these advancements were accompanied by cultural assimilation policies that sought to erode traditional Vietnamese customs and values. The French imposed their language, laws, and cultural practices, gradually eroding the rich tapestry of Vietnamese identity. Resistance movements emerged, driven by a desire to preserve Vietnamese heritage and reclaim independence. One of the most significant resistance leaders during this period was Phan Dinh Phung. He organized several uprisings against the French, rallying Vietnamese nationalists and inspiring a sense of patriotism and resistance to colonial rule. Phan Dinh Phung's efforts symbolized the spirit of defiance that would later fuel the fight for Vietnam's independence. As the early 20th century progressed, discontent with French rule grew. Vietnamese intellectuals, inspired by the ideals of nationalism and self-determination, began to advocate for political reforms and independence. Organizations such as the Vietnamese Nationalist Party, Viet Nam Quoc Dan Dang, and the Indochinese Communist Party, Dong Dung Song San Dang, emerged, laying the groundwork for future revolutionary movements. The effects of World War II further exacerbated tensions in Indochina. As France fell to the German occupation, the Japanese seized the opportunity to expand their influence in Southeast Asia, including Vietnam. The Vietnamese, seeing this as a chance to break free from French rule, engaged in resistance against both the Japanese and the French. After the end of World War II, Vietnam's fate was to be decided on the global stage. In 1945, Ho Chi Minh, a prominent Vietnamese revolutionary leader, proclaimed the independence of Vietnam and established the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. However, this declaration set the stage for a protracted struggle for independence, as the French sought to re-establish their control over the region. The First Indochina War, 1946 to 1954, unfolded as Vietnamese nationalists, led by the Viet Minh, fought against French colonial forces. This conflict was characterized by guerrilla warfare, fierce battles, and the involvement of external powers. The Vietnamese people, determined to reclaim their sovereignty, displayed remarkable resilience and determination throughout the war. The Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954 proved to be a turning point. The Viet Minh's victory over the French forces led to the signing of the Geneva Accords, which temporarily partitioned Vietnam along the 17th parallel, creating North and South Vietnam. This division would set the stage for further conflicts and ultimately lead to the Vietnam War. As we conclude this chapter, the era of French Indochina left an indelible imprint on Vietnam's history and identity. It was a period of exploitation, resistance, and the seeds of a nation's struggle for independence were sown. The experiences of French colonialism laid the foundation for the tumultuous years that followed, as Vietnam fought to determine its own destiny. Join us in Chapter 5, The First Indochina War, where we will delve deeper into the struggle for independence and the complex dynamics that shaped Vietnam's path towards reunification. Thank you for listening to Vietnam, A Journey Through History and Culture by ChatGPT and Video Geek Sparrow. Stay curious and keep exploring the captivating stories of Vietnam's past.